Alright, in this video I will be attempting to remove the engine and transmission from a 1990 Dodge Daytona ES 2.5 liter 4-cylinder with a 3-speed automatic. As you can see, I've got my nice fancy new Harbor Freight D-ring shackles. I bought 2 little ones, 1 big one, well, 1 medium-sized one. And right now I'm showing off my Dollar General paint markers. If you look at your local Dollar General, they have a craft aisle. And the better stocked of the stores in their craft aisle have got paint markers for like $3. They have gold, silver, black, and white. Right now I'm using my white paint marker to mark the underside of the hood where the hinges attach. And then I'm gonna, because it's freezing cold outside, it's like 32 degrees. The paint's not gonna dry, and I'm gonna smear it all over the place when I take the hood off, and then I'm gonna have to line it up anyway. But in the meantime, there I go looking for my come along to pull the engine forward to cut the exhaust off. And while I'm doing that, I'll explain that my camera did not record the audio correctly. It got a bunch of noise and a little tiny bit of me and nothing else. So I'm going to overdub this. So if it looks like the picture doesn't match the words, you'll know why. I've also sped the video up because I've got like 6 hours of video, and I've chopped some of it out already. But I don't think you want to sit through 6 hours of just noise. Okay, still can't find my saw. It's if you look in the truck, it's going to be in there in the toolbox where it belongs. That's not where it usually is. That you wouldn't expect it to be there, but see, that's where it was. All right, I'm going to chop that exhaust off. I'm going to steal my own catalytic converter for a change. Don't worry, I'll have catalytic converter back on it before I put the engine in. Actually, the emissions and everything else on the engine is intact from a 1998 vehicle, which is 8 years newer. Odd that I would choose to run the stock computer, but I'm going to be taking it probably on a road trip to Canada and some other places, so I figure maybe I should have that on there. They might look. And it came with this. They painstakingly pulled the stock computer and all the entire wiring harness, including the lights, out of that vehicle, out of the donor vehicle. I got that nice chain, a nice pallet, a low mileage, like, I don't know, 70,000 mile Dodge 3.9 Magnum, and a transmission 3-speed with it, with lockup converter, for $35 at a university government auction. That was crazy. I mean, they only cut one single wire. It was the alternator wire, I think, the main positive from that. So here I am farting around. I can't remember what I'm doing there, but it's probably taking the hood hinges off. And so I've got a Harbor Freight, what is that, a 1-ton, 2,000 pound insert kilograms here. Yeah, right. What do you call that, a beam trolley? And then attached to that I've got a chain fall hoist. And those things are awesome, by the way. I mean, being Harbor Freight and all, you'd think that they'd have issues, but their quality, yeah, excuse me, their quality's been increasing for the last few years because they just buy up all of our manufacturing capacity as we all go out of business. But the good news is that means that we've got some gooder equipment. So the little crane thing I've got set up is doing pretty good. I've got it hooked up to the hood now. I'm going to use it to lift the hood off, preferably without smashing the windshield, but you never know. I see I took my coat off, so it must still be like 40 degrees outside. I thought it was colder. It gets colder later, real fast. Like, I go in to charge the camera, come back out, and it's 80 below zero. Got like carbon dioxide freezing on the walls and stuff. Well, not really, but close. It's, probably 28 degrees. Yeah, still farting around taking the hood off. It takes me a little while. I probably did about 8 hours worth of work into this. Got six of it on video before I realized that the camera was out of battery for 2 of those hours. Didn't really matter because I didn't do anything important then anyway. Alright, what have I got? I don't know. Looks like a breaker bar. Oh no, it's my light holder upper. I stuck a bunch of magnets to this metal pole. I was trying to stick it to the car because once I took the hood off, I lost my light holder upper. But I can't do that because the magnets weren't strong enough to stick the metal bar to the car with the light on top of it, so I found another place to stick it. You'll see in a minute. I'm taking the come along off here since I got the exhaust disconnected. And there's where I wedged the bar in and I stuck the light on it. Always make sure you shine the light directly into the camera so it irritates people to the maximum. Maximum effect. Alright, there's a lifting sling. I'm going to do... Oh, yeah. What I did was I took that one ground bolt off the driver's side of the engine, bolted a hook into it. I don't remember the capacity. I think it's like a 500-pound hook. I don't know. I bought it for 50 cents on a clearance sale at Krause's. Krause Mill, True Value Hardware. North Lima, Ohio. They've got trains. I mean, if you would like to sponsor the channel, you could. I just like Krause's. They're a nice little local hardware store, so I just gave them a plug. I think you're allowed to do that, right? Yeah, whatever. I don't think this is regulated by the FCC yet. Okay, there we are. I picked the engine up a little bit. And I'm going to try to get the mounts loose, and I'm going to swear at it a whole bunch. And right about there is where I farted. Oh, it was a great one, too. It felt so good. Now, this was recorded on the day after Thanksgiving, so you know what those are. Okay, set her down a little bit. Try to take the bolt out. Get mad, swear at it, throw stuff. Move the light, because that'll always help you get the bolt out easier. Okay, move the camera. Suddenly the audio starts working. But not well. So we're going to keep on doing commentary. So what I'm doing here is I'm relocating the camera so that I can see, or Ewans can see, what I'm doing to try to get that front engine mount out. And it takes me like an hour to pull that front engine mount out because everything's stuck solid. I'm not sure if that's the shape it's supposed to be in or not. I think this car was in a wreck because it's got a rebuilt salvage title. And that chain that you see at the bottom there is what I used to pull it forward just a hair with my truck so I could access it a little better, and I needed to get it under the big beam. That beam trolley and chain fall hoist and everything I got is under an 18-inch tall steel beam that holds the roof up. This used to be a construction company, so the building's pretty solid. And of course I'll get that Harbor Freight half-inch electric 120-volt impact, but it can't get it can't even move that bolt. The bolt that I'm looking at right now is the one that goes across through the it's the long one that goes through the front engine mount. And I'm pretty sure that somebody torched it at one point in time because it sort of melted itself into the rubber. And that didn't work very well because then it wouldn't come out and I couldn't get it out. So I just kind of left it alone and took the whole mount out, which took longer. You can see the plate. I don't know if that plate's supposed to be there or somebody put it in because it got wrecked. But the plate that's on the core support just over top of that mount. Okay. So the plate, on the back of the plate facing toward the engine, on the left and right corner, it has got two studs sticking out of it that are round. The bases of the studs are round and they point downward. You can see I'm working on the driver's side one right now. And each of those studs has a nut. There's only 3 fasteners holding that on. They're pretty good size, but even with my road salt hell car, I was able to get them out. The nuts, I just shot some PB Blaster on there, and the nuts on the left and right on the high side of that toward the engine came out fairly easily. The bolt was a little bit harder, but I got it. I couldn't fit my giant impact under there. I just knocked them out the hard way. But anyways, I sat there and swearing and burping and farting and everything else. I did manage to get those out, and I stuck a jack under it so it didn't fall on my arm and moitorize me and whatnot. and got it loose eventually. But it took a while. We'll watch. Okay, there I am on the passenger side nut. I took the two nuts off first and then the bolt that's forward of that and lower because I wanted to make sure that my arm was out of the way if it decided to slip off the jack and fall anyway. Because, stuff does stupid stuff like that. Even though I've got it supported, you can see in the top center of the picture I've got that lifting sling attached to that hook that I just bolted straight to the side of the motor. That's, not really safety-wise, but I figure with that plus the jack holding up the mount. Oh, I'm still working on that one nut. Yeah, that one came off kind of hard, but it did come off. I thought it was turning the studs, but it wasn't, which is cool because if it was turning the studs, I would have had to grind it off, and that's a hard place to put a grinder. Or just grind the back of the stud off and let her pop loose down below. I really don't want to break any of this stuff because I'm going to use it for something else, or potentially I may at some point just sell or give it to somebody who needs it for their car. Because there's a lot of these cars out there and the parts supply is dwindling. There's still a lot of them, but there's not anywhere near as many as there used to be, and just there aren't as many parts. It's harder to get, so I figure if somebody needs it, well, I reckon I'll just give it to them or sell it for reasonable whatever. I don't want to destroy good parts just because I'm in a hurry to get something apart. This thing's been going since May 7th. I've kind of set a deadline of Christmas to get it rolling, at least on the gas motor on rear-wheel drive. That's tentative. It might get pushed to New Year's or Halloween next year, whatever. We shall see. Alright, so at some point I jump up, make all kinds of weird grunt noises, and notice the camera's off, go inside, charge it, come back out, and make some more grunt noises and complain my back hurts, and get a new Mountain Dew, which you just saw up here at the top of the screen, which is the best thing. That's the most important thing of all. So I stick my cardboard. Actually, I've got a masonite layer downer now. Just kind of easier to lay down on a piece of cardboard or masonite or whatever than it is in the dirt. There we go. There's my jack. That's my grandfather's old jack. He gave it to me. I jacked it up a little bit, just put some pressure on it, and then I put some more pressure on it with the hoist, just so the engine is being pulled upwards, and the mount's also being pushed upwards, so I don't, assuming it doesn't slip, I don't lose an arm under it. That reminds me, note to self, go to Krause's and buy some jack oil. I put some blocks on that jack because it's low in oil, so it doesn't go up very far. Alright, looks like I'm doing pretty good getting that front bolt out. Oh, I must have got it loose. Yep, guess I did. Cool. There we go. Now let's see if I let that down. It should, in theory, let the mount down. And there it goes. It's hung up on the car. It's on the stupid rubber thing, the splash shield, but it's loose. There it is. There it was. We're doing this in fast forward because I don't want you to have to sit through 6 hours of just noise. That Mountain Dew over there is the important part. Now here what I'm doing is I'm trying to take some wiring off of this thing. And I'm also trying to get the bolt out of the driver's side mount, which is the last one. That was the pain in the ass one because it's a little harder to get to, and I realized that there is a hole in the driver's side wheel well for that bolt to come out for the motor mount. That's crazy. And it came out eventually. But there was a piece of the motor mount that was hung up on itself. Oh, there's the nut. If you rewind it and pause it on that nut, I'm not sure what happened to it, if somebody terribly over-tightened it or what, but it had sharp edges. It looked like it was worn down. I don't know what the deal was. It looked like somebody tightened the crap out of it, like way too much. Because as tight as it was, it couldn't have been moving. Now, another problem with this car has been the cooling system completely full of rusty water. Or just rust at that point, because I let all the water out. I'm really hoping that the heater core is still okay, because I don't want to have to change that. But it ended up with some water. I didn't quite drain everything out, and it ended up with some water at the bottom of the water pump housing. And of course it cracked it, so I bought a new water pump housing, and eventually I just gave up and said, you know what, I'm putting it on the engine runs, but I just got tired of dicking with it, and I lost some of the parts, so I just kind of said, yeah, the frame's rusty anyway. Let's put it up on a four-wheel drive truck frame and have some fun. So there I am trying to hammer that bolt out of that mount. And I got most of the way out. I used a lag bolt, just a grade 2 regular boring old lag bolt to pull that out. Knocked it through. Then at some point I find out that it's not quite all the way out, and I go over and jack the engine back up a little bit and reach into the wheel well and just kind of pull her right out. I think there's a plug in there, like a rubber cap or something on it. Oh, I was trying to show my deer, but there was a couple of deer at the feeder over there. I forgot I'm at 10 times speed, so it's a little bit fast. That's all right. You've seen one deer, you've seen all of them. Got a little herd of 6 of them now up there. There was only 3. And I think the one might have died because I only saw 2 for a while. Now there's 6. And the sickly looking one isn't there anymore. The one heater core hose, it was so rusty on the engine side that I just was able to break it right off. That kind of, well, I mean, it was good because I didn't have to unscrew it and dick with it for an hour, but kind of bad because, well, I'm glad I didn't try to run it like that because it would have blown off. Alright, there I am taking some plugs out and stuff. I'm disconnecting the that's the transmission linkage there. So to disconnect the transmission linkage, all it is just sort of a rod that's bent on the end, and you just yank it up out of there real hard. Pry it up out, yank it up, whatever. It comes out. There's not even like an S-bend on it. It just pulls up out. Then there's a bolt, a 10mm bolt, which I have a brand new socket that fits. That 10mm bolt comes out, the retainer thing that holds the shift cable there, and then that just comes loose. And hopefully the next time I have to mess with it will be when I put the new transmission in behind the new engine, which is already in the frame. So just drop her down on the frame and hopefully just hook it right up. And then a little bit later, I disconnect the throttle cable and the cruise control cable. I'm trying to think. I don't know if I need to. I don't know what I need to do to make the cruise control work on this. I mean, it's still got the servo on it. I don't know if that'd be compatible with that JTEC Magnum engine controller, 1998. But I can find out. If I could get that to work, that'd be really cool. I mean, even if I have to put extra buttons on it, if the steering wheel buttons don't work anymore. I'm imagining that the steering wheel buttons probably won't work with the JTEC PCM because it's newer. I don't know if they changed anything, but I'm assuming they probably did because they're Chrysler and they like to make changes that break your aftermarket stuff. Ooh, what am I doing here? Oh, I'm just showing off junk. Move the camera. Alright, so on the left side of the doohickey, you can see, look to the left and down from the timing belt, the top of the timing belt. And you'll see there's a sort of a bolt hole there. It goes through. There's two bolts. There's a stud and a bolt that goes through the engine mount on that side that disconnects it. That's on the passenger side. On the front, there's just a big long bolt that goes through, but sometimes people torch it and it welds itself to the rubber insulator so you can't get it out. So there's 3 bolts on the bottom of the core, or 2 nuts and a bolt on the bottom of the core support. You can take it out with. That's easy. Then on the driver's side mount, 1 bolt, and then you bang it out through the fender, through the driver's side wheel well, and then that mount just drops out too. Although on my case, the mount got hung up on the other side of the mount, so I had to kind of pry at it to make it come down, but we got it. So what I just did was I yanked that heater hose off that was the rusty one. It just broke off. Jerked it back and forth a couple times, just broke right off. Now I'm trying to move all the cables and alternator and crap out of the way so I can get the motor loose. Seeing if I can get that thing to come loose from the car. Still working on it. Oh yeah, there we go. I'm taking the cables off it now because I forgot. Now the nice thing with the transmission is that the transmission I got with the engine was still attached when I got it, so it still had the cable, the throttle valve cable with it. And I'm pretty sure it's still in adjustment. It looks like it is. Nobody, I don't think they messed with it, and I didn't mess with it, so it should still be good. And I think this throttle cable should hook right up into that Magnum V6 throttle body. If not, it's not that hard to make an adapter, especially now that I know how to fabricate things. Man, I wish I could go back in time and teach myself to fabricate stuff when I was in high school. That would be so easy, so handy to know. Where did I go? I went somewhere. I forget why. I think I was looking for tools. Oh, my pry bar. Yeah. That's in the garage right next to the circuit breaker box. That's an obvious place for it. I was hoping somebody dumb would stick it in the circuit breaker box, but they didn't. So while I look for that, I'm going to talk about other stuff. I don't know. Whatever. That Ram 50 is going to get fixed up pretty soon, too. It's got brakes now. That's good. I got to put an engine and a transmission in it. I got the engine. I got to put the upper and lower intake on it and figure out what I'm going to do with the throttle body. It's a front-wheel drive engine, a GM 3100. Out of a 99 Malibu. It's an LG8. It's like the 180 horsepower version, or 175, 180, whatever. So the intakes on those are symmetrical, so you can turn them around and use them on a rear-wheel drive. I got to make a mount for it though, but I've got some big rubber pieces I can use for that now. Oh, cool! Look at that. I got the motor loose. Now the next big problem is going to be getting it actually out of there. I can pick the car up as high as I need to. I've got probably 8 or 9 feet of play with it, but the trouble is, I didn't take the axle shafts out first, and now they're in a bind, and I can't get them out. Okay, there's the front mount. I was showing that for a reason. Oh yeah, telling you how to get it apart, but I've already told you how to get it apart. I forget what I was talking about here, but it had something to do with the engine. At least it'll give you a good look at it. And here's the kind of stuff we got to deal with: a nasty, rusty, greasy, salty crap up here, up north here. Oh, that was the gross-looking driver's side engine mount. Looked like somebody melted. How the hell is this camera here? It's all of its own noises and like all the rustling around and stuff, but it can't hear my voice. Here's the And I'm taking the cotter pin off of the driver's side axle shaft. This is later in the evening. I think it's probably like 3 in the morning by now. I just kind of got on a roll, got caffeined up, and just kept on going at her. So I found out after I took the steering tie rod ends loose. Oh, here I am trying to find what I did with my 1.25" socket, because that's what fits those. By the way, if you're taking those big old nuts off of these things, it's an 1.25" socket. And the tie rod ends are, I believe they're 18 millimeter. I could be wrong on that. I know the one was. I think I broke my socket. I cracked it, or else probably the other one would be the same thing. If they're not 18, they're 17, or whatever the Freedom units are that correspond to that. Yep, found my big old socket. Now stick her on there and... Hey, got it, look at that. Took me like 30 seconds of chooching, but I got it off of there. I was like, I don't want to do that tonight. I don't want to take that tie rod end off there tonight, and I did it anyway. Oh, I guess that's the end of it. Alright, well, basically that's it. Got the tie rod ends off, and now I find out that I can't get the CB shafts out unless I take the ball joints off too, so I got to re-rig it. I got to pick the car up off of the front suspension, take the weight off of that, and then take the ball joints loose. Hopefully I'll get the CB axles out, axle shafts, whatever. Pick the car up, hook the truck up to the engine and transmission, just tow it out front, and that should be it, I hope. Well, that'll do it. I'll see yous later. Join us again for another exciting episode in part 2 of Taking the Damn Thing Apart. See yous later.